Up next is Action TV.
The construction of the Upper Kotmale hydropower scheme is considered a victory in the energy sector, considering the fact that it came about after protests which even saw Chief Prelate come to the fore were resolved. The Thaluwa Tamil College was one of the sacrifices that would have to be made for the construction of the Upper Kotmale hydropower scheme, which was identified well before ground was broken on the project. When the final plans for the Upper Kotmale hydropower scheme were presented, the Thaluwa Tamil College had been in existence for over 2 decades and had been functioning in a 4-story abandoned tea factory. As of 2004, the Thaluwa Tamil College had a student body numbering 1,500 and had 5 newly constructed school buildings in addition to the 4-story tea factory. On the 18th of August 2004, the project director of the Upper Kotmale hydropower scheme from the Ceylon Electricity Board reached an agreement with the Central Province Director of Education to relocate the Thaluwa Tamil College at an adjacent property complete with all facilities. According to the relocation plan drawn up by the Urban Development Authority, a total of 9 buildings were to be constructed on this land for the Thaluwa Tamil College. However, come 2008, the school was relocated to this land with only 3 of the 9 buildings having been constructed. The school, which functions out of these 3 buildings to date, now has a student body numbering 2,200. The Ceylon Electricity Board is now saying that it is unsuitable to continue construction of the other 6 buildings on this plot of land, citing a risk of landslides. The CEB incidentally had made an alternate arrangement given the inability to construct the 6 remaining school buildings. A letter addressed to the Secretary of the Past Pupils Association of the college on the 13th of July this year reveals that although the CEB had planned to construct a 3-story building complete with modern facilities and amenities for the school on a section of the old plot of land on which the school stood, which had not been claimed by the reservoir, the Ceylon Workers' Congress had intervened in the matter. The intervention was so powerful that it led to a memorandum of understanding being inked between the CEB and the CWC. According to this MOU, the 3-story building which is currently under construction is to be handed over to the CWC upon completion. Given that the construction of the Upper Kotmale hydropower scheme harmed the Thaluwa Tamil College and in no way harmed the Ceylon Workers' Congress, the inking of an MOU between the CEB and the CWC can only be labelled as a farce. Will this farce be made an obstacle towards handing over the 3-story building to the school to which it rightfully belongs to? Chairman of the Ceylon Electricity Board, this is over to you.
The Saudi Arabian government has taken measures to conduct raids to identify illegal expatriate workers living in the country with expiration of the amnesty period at midnight yesterday.
Announcing the end of the amnesty period yesterday offered to illegal immigrants living in Saudi Arabia, Major General Mansour al-Turki, the Interior Ministry spokesperson of the government of Saudi Arabia, said that expatriates to be considered for final exit should not have any criminal record and these workers will not be able to come back to the kingdom for employment in the future since they will be fingerprinted at departure points. Saudi authorities announced that labor officials will carry out raids in shops, construction sites, restaurants and all other places employing expatriates. Convening a media briefing at the Sri Lanka Foreign Employment Bureau this evening, views were expressed on Sri Lankans who had returned during the amnesty period. We have registered 16,000. Temporary passports have been given to all of them and they have been introduced to the Javasad authority in Saudi. 90% of them have been permitted to leave the country. Around 15,000 workers should have arrived in the island during the amnesty period. A considerable number of Sri Lankans, that is around 100 to 1,200, are in Saudi Arabia without any documentation. An inquiry will have to be conducted to repatriate them. We managed to free around 15,000 from punishment. The remaining 1,000 could not be freed from punishment because they did not come under any category that was specified during the amnesty period. They have violated laws. They do not have the pardon that the 15,000 workers were granted. Therefore, we are trying to see whether they could be given a lenient punishment instead of the maximum punishment and whether they could be brought back eventually. At the media briefing, journalists questioned whether workers who returned to Sri Lanka during the amnesty period can go back to Saudi Arabia for employment. Those who feel they have stayed enough in Saudi Arabia have returned. There was an alternative during the amnesty period for those who wanted to be employed again. An opportunity was given for those who worked illegally to legalize their employment. Nearly 3,000 have legalized their employment.
A religious ceremony was organized at the National Cancer Hospital today in lieu of the annual Katina ceremony of the historic Yatihalagala Rajamahaviharya in Kandy. Arrangements were made for cancer patients to pay homage to the Katina Vasraya and the Siripatul statue. The Katina Vasraya and the Siripatul statue were brought to Colombo by the Yatihalagala Rajamahaviharya, the same temple which was responsible for bringing the sacred relics which were displayed at the Sirasa Vesak zone early this year. The Katina Vasraya and the Siripatul statue will be on display for the public for 2 days from tomorrow at number 150 Spathodia Mawata off Havelock Road in Colombo 5 from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. The Katina Vasraya and the Siripatul statue will be taken to the historic Yatihalagala Rajamahaviharya on Friday the 8th of this month and will be followed by a day and night prayer session at the temple. Preparations have been made to hold an almsgiving for 100 persons and an Attapirikara ceremony on Saturday. On Base First tonight, Senior Minister S.P. Navina says that laws will be introduced in the near future to minimize hardships faced by consumers. The minister notes that ideas are being obtained from all stakeholders to prepare a national policy on consumer welfare.
A conference to obtain the views of public officials in the Kurunegala district on a national policy on consumer welfare was held at the Kurunegala district secretariat today. At some instance or the other, all of us become consumers. No matter how much the country is developed, we have now realized that there is no one to look out for us beyond a certain point. When we used to go to the divisional secretaries in the past, we saw boards put up which proclaimed the time frame for carrying out each task. For example, 2 minutes or 5 minutes. But now the boards have reduced and so has implementation.
Let's now take a quick look at the newspaper cartoon of the day. Tonight, on Words of Wisdom, we feature a saying from Sir Winston Churchill.
Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Sir Winston Churchill, former British Prime Minister.
Sports first tonight, the South Africa women's team claimed a 5-wicket win in the third 2020 encounter against their Sri Lankan counterparts in South Africa. The South Africans won the 3-match T20 series 2-1.
Shamari Jayangani and Lasanthi Madhushani opened the innings for the Sri Lankans. Madhushani gave the Lankans an inauspicious start by being dismissal for a duck. Ishani Kaushalya went on to make a half-century inclusive of 7 boundaries and a 6 before falling prey to South Africa's Shabdam Ismail. Captain Shashkala Sirivardhan and Sripali Virakudis chipped in with 25 and 17 runs respectively. The Sri Lankan women posted 109 runs for the loss of 6 wickets at the end of the allotted 20 overs. In reply, the South African team scored 111 runs for the loss of 5 wickets at the end of 20 overs to win the T20 series. Mitnan Priest top scored with 43 runs and Senet Laubser contributed 37 runs.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News. I'm Stephanie Lazarus. We leave you tonight with a look at the weather forecast for tomorrow. Good night.
At 9. Hotline 0114-896-896. www.newsfirst.lk. Feedback at newsfirst.lk.